Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthy relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zara Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 2.5 years.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
And you will notice that, before we get going, you'll notice that my voice is still really off. My apologies. COVID tends to do that apparently. Inshallah, hopefully by the next one, maybe my voice will be back to normal. Just bear with us as much as we can, as much as you can, inshallah. How have you been feeling? Did you catch this cold?
I don't know. I can't tell. I feel like I have, but I fought it off. Alhamdulillah, I have a strong immune system.
Alhamdulillah, that's good. That's all that orange juice and sarcasm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a real jerk.
Okay. Okay, so on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about finances. We'll talk a little bit about, finances or who should pay for things during the talking stage.
Yeah.
And then we'll really focus on how we've handled finances and some things that work in marriage. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. So during the talking stage, there's this idea, or there's this quote-unquote debate, the 50-50 debate.
Sure.
Where people, both Muslim and non-Muslim, are really asking who should be paying for things. So two young people or two people who are trying to get to know each other.
Yeah.
They go out maybe with a mahram ideally, but they go out somewhere and the bill comes up and it's time to pay.
Yeah.
Who pays?
Well, you said mahram, right? So we're talking about the Muslim perspective, right?
Yeah.
Well, the answer's already there. It's already given. There's no point for discussion there.
The mahram pays?
The mahram?
Who pays?
Are you talking about like for the actual date?
Yeah, like for when the people go out, right?
Yeah.
And then the waiter comes.
I would have to imagine typically it would be the guy.
The guy pays.
Yeah. Why would the mahram have to pay? The mahram is just there to oversee.
I don't know. I was just being cheeky.
Oh.
Okay, so it's the guy. Let's say that they've been getting to know each other for months and months and months.
Sure.
It's the 10th time around now.
Yeah.
The bill comes by.
Yeah.
Who's paying?
The guy.
So just indefinitely?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Honestly, I personally agree. I think that our religion does a very good job of providing guidelines, and so that if there is any argument, you just refer back to the default guidelines, right? But the guidelines tend to not be hard and fast rules. It's just if in the situation you guys cannot agree, you're going to go towards the default, and the default is that men are providers.
So for me, I see the guidelines as hard and fast rules. My reasoning for that is because it's the woman's right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But what I'm saying, I mean, like, if that's the default,
right?
But if a woman is just like with the mahr or dowry, right? If a woman wants to contribute out of the goodness of her heart, because she cares about this individual and wants them to be okay, and says, no, let me have this one, let me pay this one.
Yeah,
and that's
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's different for perspectives, right? For the man, it's hard and fast rules that are unchanging.
Okay.
But for the woman, it's her choice.
That makes sense, yeah.
And I'm specifically talking about when it comes to the female rights, the women's rights.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's both in marriage and out of marriage.
Yeah.
The money is already determined by our religion, Islam, that it is the woman's right.
Yeah, definitely.
The man cannot ask her to pay anything if she doesn't want to pay anything, even if she's rich.
No, definitely within marriage, yeah, absolutely. Outside of marriage, I don't remember any specific hadiths, but I would assume actually I probably shouldn't assume anything, but definitely
I feel like outside of marriage, it's her father's responsibility to make sure she's paid for.
You're right. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. But outside of marriage, when it comes to the talking stage, and my clients approach me, and sometimes this question does come up. In general, what I do, what I recommend is that it's a good idea to see whether or not a man has the character that you're looking for. And that character is a character that's in line with the rules of Islam. So just like the reason why it looks like I can see you feel very strongly about this is because it's already outlined by the rules of Islam. So it's a good idea to find for yourself somebody who feels strongly about what is outlined within the boundaries of Islam. So the reason why that's helpful is because if somebody, a man or a woman, takes seriously what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said and respects what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, that person is going to be very conscious about protecting your rights, and they're going to fear Allah when it comes to how they treat you, right? So they're going to be holding themselves within those boundaries. So for that reason, it's a good idea to try to choose somebody, regardless of what your intentions are after a marriage, to try to choose somebody whose character is in line with what's already outlined in our religion.
For me, my perspective on things, for like, if a Muslim man says, I'm only ever really going to marry a woman that's okay with splitting things 50-50, it's like, for me, it's as if he's saying, when I marry this woman, I want to be able to have the right to stop her from breathing for a couple minutes if I wish to. Yes, because it's her right to breathe. Yeah, and it's her right to have her money.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. Like, if it's already written there in black and white, then I don't. Sometimes I wonder, like, why are we having a conversation? It's already written there, right? Yeah. If it had been the other way around and it was said, subhanAllah, somehow that women are the providers, like, I wouldn't be hesitating. I'd be like, okay, that's what it is. There's nothing I can say about that. It's already written, right? Yeah. So it's important that not in addition to holding boundaries with our spouse about our own personal rights, it's important to hold ourselves accountable with respect to our responsibilities. And I think that's where some people have difficulty. And before I used to coach non-Muslim people, right? A lot of non-Muslim people, and again, this question would come up, and the way that I would approach it with them, right, especially for the clients that are women, and they would say, you know what, I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to pay or he's supposed to pay. How does it work? And I would tell her, it depends on who invited who out, right? And who invited who. So if he is inviting you out somewhere, then he's paying. In the same way that if you're with your friends, like a woman, I'm talking to a woman, if you're out with your friends who are also women, and one of them calls you and says, hey Chelsea, I want to go out to this place and this place on that day, I want to take you out. It's understood that means that the other girl is going to be paying for me. Right? So in that same way, that courtesy, if a person invites you out somewhere and says, I want to take you somewhere out, that means they're paying.
The weird thing about Chelsea, though, to be honest, is that we only really ever invite her so that she can keep track of things and chaperone us. She's our handler.
Chelsea handler. Chelsea handler. All right, that's if you make me laugh too much, I'm going to be coughing. And that will be most of the podcast. That was a good one, though. I like that. But that's just the general rule, right? So whenever I would hear questions about this 50-50 debate, which I think is, honestly, I can see why it's a concern, but it's one of those things that really are a little bit silly, because they are not, especially if you're a Muslim, it's a little bit silly, because we're arguing about something that's already been outlined. Yeah. Okay, so that's when it comes to beforehand. So now after you're married, right? So the wedding has happened. We're not even going to worry about who paid for the wedding, or mahar, or any of the stages in between. The wedding's happened, everything's happened, and now the two of you are married and are in a house together. And the bills come up. Yeah. Rent comes up, utilities, groceries, car payment, all these things start coming up. Who pays? Let's say both people are working, and they're making equal salaries.
The husband.
He pays 100% of the time?
Yeah, he pays. It's the husband that pays. Yeah. And if the husband cannot afford to pay everything himself, he takes the family and moves them to somewhere where he can afford it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's the wife, she keeps her money. Yeah. And it's entirely the husband's responsibility to pay everything. Now, the wife, she can say, hey, I'm going to help you out. Yeah. Right? But the reason why the husband has the right to decide where the family lives is because it's their husband's responsibility to pay for everything.
Yeah.
If the wife had the right or any leeway in this, she can strong arm the husband in saying, I want to live in this expensive neighborhood and I want you to pay for everything. It's not fair to the husband.
That's true.
Right? So that's why the husband's able to move somewhere where he can afford to pay for things. And because of that, he's the one that's responsible for paying for everything.
No, that makes sense. Like, he pays for everything, but he decides where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, that's a fair compromise, right?
It's just.
Yeah, it's a fair compromise. I think it's important that we point out that you and I are in no way at all, shape, or form pretending to be anything more than just regular practicing Muslims. Like, neither of us is a student of knowledge. Neither of us has any knowledge in addition to just what's basically taught for day-to-day life. So what we are basing our information on is just what is the basic knowledge of the rights of the husband versus the rights of the wife, right?
This is not scholarly advice.
No, it's not. But this is, I think, knowledge that's just basic to most people who are...
If you're married, it's knowledge that you should have.
Yeah, that are... Especially those of us who had the privilege of being born into Islam and raised as Muslims. Alhamdulillah, this is just knowledge that just comes from being in that world. Okay, so with that understanding, let's go through some questions.
Okay.
So once again, these questions I found on the subreddit Muslim Marriage. Let's go through. I found one asking from the perspective of a brother. And another one asking from a perspective of a sister.
Sure. Are we saying that it's a sister asking and a brother asking? Or are we saying that it's a brother saying, hey, I want you to answer this from the perspective of a sister?
Oh, no. It's a man asking a question. And then the second question, it's the woman asking a question.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So for the first question, it's titled, Wife is Not Happy with Finances. Okay. He says, Assalamu alaikum. I am a 28-year-old male and recently married to a 27-year-old female. I have been married for almost 2 years now and do not have any kids, and things have generally been good, but this one issue keeps on coming up. Both me and my wife work and we live a reasonably comfortable life. I pay all of the bills and my wife pitches in here and there for the odd extra vacation or new furniture. However, my wife consistently brings up wanting more from life and a better lifestyle for herself. She brings up me not saving enough for the future, which is true, but all the extra expenses here and there do not fully go towards me personally and are all the extra dates, vacations, vet bill for our cat, and the gifts I buy for her. I am not a materialistic person and I live a very simple life. My wife is the opposite of that and always needs to have the latest and greatest iPhone, designer purses and shoes, etc. She always mentions how I do not make enough, even though I make a healthy amount, and that I should seek a better paying job. However, I am very happy with my job and where I work. I feel she is slowly starting to resent me and the marriage because I don't make enough to support the lavish and materialistic lifestyle she envisioned for herself. She always compares herself and me to some of her friends who married much more richer men than I am. I am always at a loss when this conversation comes up because I've told her what she could expect financially from me before we got married, and she said she was okay with that. It breaks my heart to see my wife not happy with the life we have made for ourselves, and I have been contemplating getting a second job to make her happy in this regard. But also, I'm conflicted on whether I should be giving into what she wants, as I don't think more materialistic things would make her happier, or just make her momentarily happy until she wants the next thing. Should I give in? And how should I handle this issue? Divorce has not come up, but sometimes I do think, for her sake at least, that she should just leave me for a more wealthy man who can give her the life that she wants. I love her, but it's hard being with someone who makes you feel like you are not good enough for them and that they deserve more than you can provide. Jazakallah khair.
Okay. The way I see it is that there's this funny image that I saw around
Yeah.
where it said like a budget breakdown: food $200,
Yeah.
data like internet $150, rent $800, candles $3,600,
Okay.
utility $150. And he's like, someone who's good at budgeting, please help me. My family is dying.
Oh God.
Right?
Yeah.
If you guys are worried about finances,
Yeah.
there are areas that you can reduce the costs. Like, apparently, they're spending a lot on vacations.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're spending a lot on purchases that are temporal, right?
Yeah. That's what he said.
They have areas where they can cut the budget, but not just that. He said that he's paying for all the bills and she's pitching in here and there.
Yeah.
Right? Which means that she has access to a lot of her money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And apparently she's the one that's purchasing the vacations for the family.
Yeah.
What he should ask her, and what she should probably think for herself, is she willing to savor her marriage in prospect of better in heaven, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we have that famous story,
Okay.
right? The hadith, where they had wanted the worldly pleasures,
Yeah.
and forgot about the afterlife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Prophet's wives, sallallahu
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
they had asked things of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu,
Oh yeah.
and their fathers said, "Why do you trade this life for the next?"
Yeah. And I'm not familiar with that hadith, but that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So what you're saying is that I think he agrees with you, where he's saying that the income that he has now, right, is enough to have a comfortable life, a regular comfortable life. But what she's asking for is above and beyond that regular comfortable life, because there's additional purchases, right? And he's saying he agrees with you that it's like these things are extra. Yeah. And so her solution is, you need to get a job,
a better job,
so that you can afford to give me these extra things.
It's never going to be enough, though.
That was his next question. He's like, that's his next point, where he said, I'm worried that it's just going to keep going.
It's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. Money is never going to be enough. Ever.
So how do we advise this brother? How would you advise this brother?
Yeah, Islamically. Just focus on the dunya.
Okay.
Right? Focus on you and your wife realizing that the end goal is not to be rich. The end goal is to get enough good deeds to, inshallah, make it into heaven by the mercy of Allah. Now, he also says that he admits he also spends on himself by quite a large margin.
No, I think he said he doesn't.
No, he did at the very beginning. He said, and I admit I do spend on my own. I do buy some stuff for myself.
Yeah.
And he did say that. It's like one of the earlier paragraphs. I mean, it depends, right? Like, is he doing frivolous purchases? Or are there purchases that matter? Are there purchases that are long run?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, right? Because it says here, right? She brings me up not saving enough for the future, which is true, but all the extra expenses here and there do not fully go towards me personally, and are all the extra dates, vacations, vet bill for account, and gifts that I buy for her. So from his part, right? From his part, I don't think he's spending any more than he's supposed to.
He says not all.
Yeah.
It's a very variable.
So there could be a little bit of room. Yeah. There could be some room for budgeting on his part.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
he's a human. He deserves, at the very least, some money for his happiness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I
Like
agree.
myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be baking a pizza tonight, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got a pizza roller, one of those roller cutters, which of course we could have used a knife, but I want to immerse myself in the experience.
Oh, okay, go for it.
And that was a purchase that I made selfishly.
That's okay. But I know what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's within reason. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't buy a pizza oven.
Oh, I didn't buy a pizza oven either.
Yeah.
I bought a pizza roller.
Yeah, so it's like it's within reason. It's
It was
within
like $5.
Yeah, it's within a budget, right? I get what you're saying. And I think what he's saying is that he stays relatively within his budget.
Yeah.
I
Did
think
he also say that he purchases the vacations?
No, she does. I think I might have skipped a word or two when I was first reading it. But my understanding is that these are all expenses on her side. Okay. I think two things are going on here. I think the first is what he's understanding. He tried in the beginning, towards the end of the question that he's asking, he mentions that this is something that they talked about during the talking stage.
Yeah.
But I don't think they talked about it enough. Because when it comes to compatibility, there's compatibility with respect to expectations. Yes, last week we talked about compatibility with respect to attraction. There's a lot of different types of compatibility. Financial compatibility is a very important one.
Almost very, very important.
Yes, and so the right questions were not asked on one or both sides, right? People tend to ask this question a little bit and gloss over it and move on.
Yeah.
Right? What I would have recommended if this brother was my client and during the talking stage somehow, what I recommend is if it's important to you that you keep the job that you have and to live within your means, you make that clear to the person and say, I just want to make it clear that I have reached where I want to reach in my career, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to move beyond it. The income that I have is the income that I have.
I don't think he says he reached where he wants to reach. I think he says he likes his job. Like, he's okay with getting promoted. He's okay with making more money.
Yeah.
But he likes his job. She wants him to get a different job in a different field that pays more.
Okay, then you should make that clear, right? That this is what my career is. I want to continue with this career. And the amount of money I make, barring a promotion, is the amount of money I make. And this is the lifestyle that I can provide as a result of that. Right, so just to make that clear to the other person. In addition to talking about it, it's important to pay attention. Observation is 90% of helping you make the right of you having the right information during the talking stage. Talking, right, the actual talking and asking questions is maybe 10%. 90% of it is you paying attention and observing. In this case, I would be observing in terms of how is she living.
Yeah.
When is she wearing some really, really nice clothes? Does she talk about, look at her phone, look at her car? As human beings, there are 3 indicators that you can pay attention to that will tell you what's in our heart and what's in our mind, what's important to us, what we value. So if I want to know about what a person values, there are 3 things that I'm looking at. Number 1, what are they talking about? What did they talk about? Number 2, how do they spend their time? And number 3, how do they spend their money? Right? So in terms of time, if she's telling you, last week I went on this vacation, next week I'm planning this vacation, pay attention to that. In terms of how does she spend her money, when you're taking her out on a date, what is she comfortable what is she comfortable with purchasing? And see, because as human beings, especially when we have different upbringings, we have different levels of comfort in terms of what we're willing to spend on a particular item, right? I might be willing to spend maybe $20-$30 on a t-shirt. Somebody else might be very comfortable spending $500 on a t-shirt, right? So those are different, that would be an incompatibility there in terms of financial values. Right? So those are how you assess financial values. Number 1, making it clear through talking about what it is you're willing to provide. And number 2, observing by observing what a person talks about, how they spend their time, and where they spend their money. So those are the two things that he could have done better during the talking stage.
Yeah.
And as we said last week, whenever we have a question like this, we're not going to judge. We're not going to worry about what happened in the past. We're here now, right?
Yeah.
This incompatibility exists. And the question is how, when with some help and with some compromising, is it possible to close the gap between his financial comfort and her financial comfort, right? Is it possible to come to a place of understanding between the two?
It is.
How?
Move to a cheaper neighborhood and use the extra money for more vacations.
That is definitely an option, right? That's a place to compromise. What I suspect, so if they want to try to have this conversation themselves, like we always say, that means you're going to have a discussion. You're going to go back to your safe space and you're going to go through the 5 steps that we've gone through many times now of how to have a healthy discussion with your spouse, where you speak about your partner's experience, right? And the reason why you start by speaking about your partner's experience is because if your partner feels understood, it will reduce their tendency to feel attacked, right? It opens up your partner's ears when you start from a place where they feel understood. So you start by saying, look, I know it's very frustrating for you that it feels like that maybe we're not living the type of life that you had envisioned for yourself. And I can understand that. You work very hard, I work very hard, but somehow that's not matching up to where it is that you want to get to. Speak about her experience. And then in the second step, you talk about your experience and say, but it's important for me that you understand that I really like the job that I have now, and I'm already working so hard at it. To add another job onto that, even though it would bring on more money, I'm concerned about 2 things. Number one, I'm concerned about how it would affect my health, because it would be so much more responsibility, a lot less time sleeping, working out, eating healthy, doing the things that I need to do to stay and remain healthy and happy. So it would really, take away from my quality of life. And number 2, I'm worried that even if we're able to bring that amount of money, would it be enough? Because to be honest, I feel like the money that I make now is already enough. It should be enough, but it's not able to meet the things that, in my opinion, are extra. So if I were to bring in more money, I would worry that bar would just not going to be raised and there will be even more extra.
Reverse limbo. And
then in step 3, you ask her, what is your, what do you think about all this, right? Where you check in with her and see what her understanding is. And so on, and you go through your steps.
Okay, so I'm going to put that into practice.
Okay.
I pretend that you're the wife that's not happy. And I'm the husband who's trying to address it.
Okay.
Hi, dear. I've called you into the room today to have this discussion. It's an uncomfortable discussion, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it together.
Okay.
I understand that you're not happy with our finances currently, and I understand that you don't think I'm doing enough to remedy those issues. And I understand that you want me to get a better job, or at the very least make more money, so that we can have those better finances. That's all. You can go now.
I mean, that is an approach. But yeah, I don't know if it would work.
It probably wouldn't, but it would look cool. You'd look cool until you're sleeping on the couch or something. I don't know.
You do it for the vine.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it.
Okay. But that's how you approach this. You have that discussion. You might have to have that discussion a couple of times. And if it's not working, right? So you'll find that there are some conversations in some areas that are a big enough deal, especially this early in marriage. They've only been married for 2 years. A lot of people can end up divorced over concerns about financial issues. So if you're not able to reach a resolution after 1 or 2 discussions, it might be time to think about finding a professional, right? Whether it's a counselor, a therapist, or a coach who can sit you down and give you a platform and maybe be able to seek gaps in what you're saying and what she's hearing, and vice versa, because that's a lot of what counseling and therapy is that they're translators. So that because you would be surprised how often that even though two people are speaking the same language, they're not understanding each other.
Yeah, for an issue like that, I think an imam or a sheikh would be best.
An imam, it depends on the person's values. Like, even though this is our Muslim marriage, so you never know where a person they are on that spectrum of being practicing, right?
Yeah.
So you try to give as many options as you can. And imam, that if it were me and you, that's where we would go.
Yeah, but like, honestly, I would think even if you're not practicing, it's best to get that perspective first, because it might remind you of like what benefits come from practicing. Yeah,
that's true. I agree. And yeah, that might be a good place to start. But in either case, an unbiased mediator that can help the two of you hear each other better and give some feedback on some strategies on how to hear each other better. There's a chance that this might not work, but that would be the next step that you take that gives you the best possible chance of resolving this issue. And it's, again, a very common issue.
If it doesn't work, you just always remember you have that shovel in the back.
Oh, subhanallah. All right, you say that so often that I'm now going to go check the trunk of the car.
You just sell it. You sell the shovel, you make a lot of money.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. And they can't track you.
Why?
What do you mean?
Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, so that's from the perspective of a brother. From the perspective of a sister, and this is the second question. It's called, my soon-to-be husband wants to take control of my finances. So from the woman's side, this tends to be where the issue is. She says, I am 25-year-old female, MBBS doctor, right? So that's internationally, it's equivalent of an MD.
Yeah.
So I'm a 25-year-old female doctor. I'm engaged and will be married in a few months. My soon-to-be husband demanded that I give all control of my bank account and to give him all my credit cards after marriage, and that when I need any money, I should ask him for it. To this, I said that I am willing to contribute in household expenses and in other difficulties that may fall upon us. I even agreed to have a joint account. But he wants total control of all my money, which I am reluctant to give. His reason for this is that women are usually dumb and spend money on useless stuff, and that he will use the money to invest in something better and to pay his debts, which I am already willing to pay for. I don't know what to do. I have studied all my life and just recently started my first job. I do not want to give up control of everything. I also do not want to discuss it with my family because they can have biased views. I know he sounds like a red flag, but this is the first time he demanded something like this. So far he was very nice. Some of you told me in another post to run, and I am having goosebumps just thinking about the backlash and criticism that I will get if I so much as whisper about breaking my engagement. Sorry for the rant. Any advice would be highly appreciated. She gives an update. She says, update. I discussed it with him again, and after a lot of arguing, he suddenly changed his whole opinion about the matter and said, you can do whatever you want with your money. I won't touch it, and we won't talk about it again. I am still concerned about the fact that after asking why he has changed his mind, he told me that it was concerning for me. That's why, and to make me happy, and not because he was on the wrong side. He still thinks he was right. So that's the question.
Okay. Is she married to him?
I don't remember.
It sounds like she's not.
No, in this question, no, they're engaged. So she's asking.
So here's the problem.
Yeah.
Two things. First and foremost, she says, I haven't discussed it with my family.
Okay.
Because I feel like they would be biased. Biased towards who?
In this case, this young woman, I feel, sounds like she's coming from a very conservative family.
Sure.
There's a chance they might be biased towards him.
In his favor?
Yeah.
Conservative how? Islamically?
No, conservative culturally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So when it comes to cultural clashes between religion and culture, then religion trumps it. Right?
Yeah.
So no matter how conservative they are,
Yeah.
they can't just rose tinted glasses themselves out of the situation.
Yeah.
My guy, what do you do in trying to demand her money?
Yeah, you would be surprised how common this is. Like this, I'm not saying that's the case here, but there's a lot of clients that come who are in very difficult marriages, and a prominent feature of those marriages often is financial abuse.
This is okay. So this is the way I see it. Okay, my perspective on this. If you demand money from your wife,
Yeah.
just imagine yourself on Judgment Day demanding from Allah that you go to heaven.
Subhanallah.
It's the equivalent.
Yeah, that's true. Subhanallah.
It's the equivalent. You should feel shame for it.
I completely agree. Like there are some things that are just a responsibility, and to pass off on that responsibility on to your spouse, it's like me. It's like if it's like having a child and demanding that the child like is 12 years old, demanding that the child, you know what, you're now responsible for paying rent. Like just handing over your responsibilities onto someone you should be taking care of.
It's even worse than that. It's like having a child and saying, look, you're now responsible for feeding yourself. There's the fridge, the food's in there, you got to make your own food.
Yeah. So it's pretty wild. So he's clearly in the wrong, right? So the question is, how do we advise this young lady?
Get away from the guy. That's it.
Yeah, but
it's Gigi Nori.
So she, in the update, she went back to him.
Yeah.
And she had a conversation.
That's not enough.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not enough. Look, the fact that he's able to have that decision.
Yeah.
And then not have the foresight or mental capacity or acuity to realize that what he's demanding of her is in direct violation of the religion.
Yeah.
Almost like the most explicitly.
Yeah.
It says right there, her money is entirely hers.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
And then on top of that, he calls not just her dumb, but all women dumb. And that they're not able to deal with their finances.
Yeah.
And in the same breath, he says, I'm going to use your money to pay off my debts.
Why do you think he changed his mind then?
What do you mean?
She said after a long period of argument, he changed his mind, said, we're never going to talk about this again. And he completely conceded.
The reason why is because he wants to marry her.
Why do you think he wants to marry her?
So that he seals it.
I think it's because she's a doctor.
He seals it. Like, for him, he's trying to think of it as the long game, right? He knows that if he has this discussion with her before they get married, she has the likelihood or the possibility of just saying, no, you know what? We're canceling it. Yeah. But once he's married to her, he thinks that he's going to have more sway over her, more pull, right? He's going to have more power over her, and that eventually he's going to be able to get what he wants from her. At the very least, in the short term, he knows that she's willing to pay off his debts. So he might want to get married to her for the fact that she pays off his debts. Yeah.
Because she said she not only is graduated, but she's working.
What's crazy about it is that he says that she's dumb with her finances and still wants her to pay off his
women are dumb with
everyone, including her. Yeah. And he wants her to pay off his debts, which he's done with his finances, ironically enough.
Yeah, there's usually a level of hypocrisy. I would, if this was, okay, so I'm going to make a lot of assumptions. And I usually recommend that when you are in the process of trying to marry somebody, it's okay for you to make as many assumptions as you like. That you make as many assumptions as you like, that you go jump to whatever conclusions that you need to, right? Don't worry so much about how it's affecting the other person, because up until you're married, this is just a story about you and about you deciding and choosing what is best for yourself, just like the other person is also doing. Yeah. Right. There's a lot of risk that comes with marrying somebody, no matter how well you know them, because how well you think you know them, because at the end of the day, you don't know them. They are going to be a stranger to you when you're in the same house as them, and you want to mitigate as much of that risk as possible. Yeah. And that's why I encourage people to analyze the information that they have carefully, to weigh the possible meanings of what that information is, and then to move accordingly.
Yeah.
So in this case, when the brother says, what was most telling is the way he spoke about women, where he said women, and I know she's paraphrasing, but she's paraphrasing based on her best idea of what he meant.
Yeah.
So it says women are the make dumb decisions with their money. No, it says women are dumb and therefore make bad decisions with their money, right?
Yeah.
That means there is a lack of respect of women here. And if there's a lack of respect of women, nothing else matters. If you marry somebody who doesn't respect you because of your gender or any other feature, but who fundamentally doesn't respect you, that means they're going to be very lax about upholding your rights. And they're going to feel very comfortable with even abuse. And in this case, it would be financial abuse. So that enough should be, without having said anything else after that, I would 10 out of 10 recommend that this client walk away from that situation. Secondly, what I garnered from this situation was exactly what you said.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen many times where a client will put on their bio, on their matrimonial app bio or their bio data or whatever profile, that she is a lawyer, that she is a CEO, that she is a doctor, that she comes from a very well-paid field. And this is always a bad idea, right? Even for brothers, I would also recommend against this. This is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because there are many people who, for one reason or another, are looking to take advantage of that, both men and women. In this case, this young man, even if he wasn't an abuser, at the very least, he's somebody who has a lot of financial insecurity. And the most important thing for him is to marry into financial security, it looks like.
Yeah.
That's why he was able to concede.
Yeah.
Hard values, financial values are things that are ingrained within us that don't go away within a conversation, right? So at the very least, he's financially, he has a lot of insecurity when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And dealing with money will be a headache the whole marriage. At the worst, it's somebody who's abusive and doesn't respect women.
Yeah. I feel like if he has any stake or claim to inheritance, he should forego it.
Inheritance?
Yeah. If he's trying to take away her rights, he should lose his rights as well.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me what you said earlier about being married to a person that you think you know, but you don't actually truly know.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a sad story. Okay. There was this guy who was with the KKK.
Oh, subhanAllah.
Yeah. He was very, very loyal to the group, right?
Yeah.
Always going to their rallies and what. It's not a joke. It's a very sad story.
Okay.
Okay. And he was married. A lovely woman, 19 years married. She's not 19 years old. They were married 19 years.
Yeah.
Right? And after the documentary, when it was revealed that he himself was a black man, and yeah, he didn't know his whole life. He hated black people. He found out once that he was a black man. After 19 years of marriage,
yeah,
he divorced his wife. And they said, why?
Yeah.
Why, Clayton? Why?
Oh, no.
And he said, I just couldn't get over the fact that she loves black men.
No, documentary is a strong word for what it was you're describing.
It was a documentary, yeah. Google it. Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah, documentary. Was it written and directed by Dave Chappelle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's still a documentary. I feel like it was based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
Sad story. She got divorced for no reason, just for loving a man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, she didn't see color.
No, she did. She very well did. She just chose to ignore it.
There you go. So, that's I feel like that was very relevant.
It was.
It was, yeah.
Like he was married to her for 19 years, and yet he never knew that aspect about her, that she was in love with a black man.
I see what you're saying. So you never actually know the person you're married.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that would be our advice for that sister, inshallah, and that advice for the brother, right? So for the sister, don't do it. And for anyone who is in a similar situation when you're in the talking stage, when you're assessing compatibility, financial compatibility is very important. Make sure you ask the right questions, right, about exactly what your expectations are. If you're the woman, tell them what type of life that you're looking to live, right?
Yeah.
And then ask honest questions about what it is that they can provide.
Yeah.
That's 10%. 90% of it is pay attention to be observant about what he actually can provide. I know it's a little bit superficial, but about what is his job, what are his aspirations for his job, what is his ambition, and how likely is he to follow through with that, and if this is something that you would be happy with, right? That's how you assess financial values if you're a woman, and we talked about how you assess that if you're a man.
There's such a fast way to determine if the man that you're looking to get married to is financially capable.
What is that?
Just pop his tires, see how fast he gets them replaced. Easy.
Yeah. Honestly, don't do it, but that will give you a lot of information.
Yeah.
And if you don't
if it's been like a month and a half, and he's now taking the bus, that guy's poor.
Yeah, that would be sad. Then you would be a little deflated.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna sidestep it. Now let's talk a little bit about how you and I approach finances, right? I remember I asked you a lot of these questions during our talking stage, and to assess what your financial values were like in comparison to mine, and I think we matched up. Alhamdulillah.
I think I told you I'm okay with just living very, very, very cheap.
Yeah, no, that's fine, right? Honestly, because of the way that I was raised, I grew up as the oldest one. I was very heavily involved in budgeting for our family, right? So I've always just been very conscious of budgets, no matter how much money we have, just being very conscious of budgets and making sure that everything's taken care of. So and you think the same way that I think.
The way that I was raised free range.
Free ranged?
Yeah, I was raised free range.
Organic?
Well, yeah, I guess organic as well. Like, I'm a prime cut.
Okay, subhanAllah. All right. But we saw eye to eye. And then after we got married, I don't know if I fully discussed it with you, but I always knew that after I would get married, no matter how much I trusted a person and how much I liked the person, that for the first year, we were going to maintain separate accounts.
Yeah.
At least for this first year, which is exactly what we did. You kept all of your accounts. I kept all of my accounts. We decided who would pay what bill. Yeah. And then we just did that, right? And then after a year, and when I got a good picture of who you are, and I felt that I could really trust you and trust your dear character. Yeah. We went to the bank, and then we created joint accounts.
It came to me as a shock, honestly.
Yeah.
That day we went to the bank together. Yeah. And I saw your driver's license. You don't have a driver's license, but when I saw the ID, right? I realized you were Somali.
You didn't know?
Yeah.
You just thought I spoke the language really well.
Yeah.
Actually, better than you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is she Somali? Okay, wow.
Does it say that on the license?
No, but you could just tell. Phrenology.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. And in our marriage, yes, I remember we made a decision because I wanted it to live all together with me, you, and my sister, and my little nephew, that it was going to take a lot more money to live in the type of house that we wanted to live in. Right? So for that reason, we decided that we're going to divide up the bills, and that I was going to contribute to live into the type of life that the two of us could live together. Just like you said at the beginning, if I decided that, you know what, I don't want to work anymore, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, you'd be like, yeah, no problem, but we're moving. And that's how we understood that.
Yeah.
So that's how we handle that. I think that's most of the discussion when it comes to finances. Today was, alhamdulillah, a little bit of a shorter episode.
And we've been married for 2.5 years.
So far, we're gonna have to just change saying that because anniversary is coming up.
Yeah. In our anniversary episode, we've been married 35 years.
Okay. Inshallah. Well, it feels like it. Like, alhamdulillah. Did you want to add anything else to that discussion?
It was wonderfully put.
Oh, I appreciate that. Jazakallah khair. I think we covered most bases. So now I put the question to you. When you are in the talking stage and you are getting to know somebody, and that bill comes, who pays? Is it who should be the one who pays? I think that's everything for this week's episode.
My answer for that? Okay, my answer for that is you have the guy believing that he should pay, and then after you guys have finished eating food, you go both pretend to go to the washroom, and then you dine and dash.
Dine and dash? Subhanallah.
Yeah. You leave it with the mahram.
So you did everything else halal, but then you stole food. That's wild.
You leave it with the mahram. You leave it with the...
Just the mahram?
Yeah, you just leave it with the guy.
Yeah, you mean your dad?
Yeah, you just like... I'm sure they're coming back eventually.
Yeah.
Can I wash the dishes, please? I don't have money to pay this.
That's wild.
I'd like to wash the dishes.
I remember there was one situation where we were going to go meet somebody, and we at the time we lived in Toronto, and in Toronto they have a very good subway system. And we were going to go to a place downtown, and the person came to the house, and we were all going to go together using the subway system. And I remember they didn't want to pay for our bus tickets, our tokens, and I was like, all right. They gave me a lot of the information I wanted to know. And then when we went there and we finished eating, that person just they were talking about how we're going to split the bill. Yeah. And I said, yeah, no problem. We'll split the bill. And then that was it. We never saw them again. Yeah. Yeah. Not only for any other situation, except that I think, like, personally, based on my own personal financial values, I want somebody who is going to assume the role of provider.
Of course.
Yeah.
From the get-go.
As a default position. Yeah. And then allow me to make the decision of how much I'm willing to contribute. Yet they can decide where we're going to live. Yeah. Like, if this is the person that I want to choose to marry. Yeah. Then then he decides how we're going to live. Yeah. Within his means. Like, we'll make a decision together, which house specifically. Yeah. But the tier of house will be according to his means, unless I want to contribute. I
gave you a lot of sway. Yeah. On where we live. Yeah. If it were up to me, I would choose to live with, like, airplanes flying overhead, and people throwing punches in the streets.
Down the street?
Yeah.
We'll have a good
I would just get my hose. Yeah. And I would just keep them cool while they fought each other.
Subhanallah.
I would toss, like, food. Yeah. To them. Not at them, of course. That's disrespectful. Yeah. Right? But, like, dinner and a show. Yeah. You know?
I mean, we don't want to be disrespectful.
Of course not. No. Let them fight each other. Let them breed. Yeah. We're going to have, once they finish the bleeding all over the street, right, we give them bandages. And we let them watch TV. We recorded the whole thing, selling it for profit on YouTube. You know, they get to see their works.
You know what? That's why I chose where we live. Yeah. Yeah. I just took out a lot of those complications.
It's so sad. I don't get to see people fight in the streets.
Subhanallah. I think now we've reached the conclusion. So Jazakallah khair, thank you so much for listening. If you got this far, we really appreciate it. If you like our content and it has been beneficial to you, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out with the algorithm. Jazakallah khair, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. And assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.